Hello, and thank you, AJ. I'm really excited to be here to talk to you all about Second Chance Hiring. As AJ said, I'm Cassie Zumbiel. I'm the Director of Workforce Programs and Policy with the Manufacturing Institute. So what is Second Chance Hiring and what brought us here today? Second Chance Hiring, as you all probably are aware, is the focus on hiring individuals with prior convictions. Back in April, we launched our Second Chance Hiring initiative in partnership with the Charles Koch Institute, who's our funder, and Stand Together, who we're working in partnership for this initiative. As AJ mentioned, 1 in 4 Americans have possessed a criminal record, and it truly is creating challenges for our workforce, excluding them from the talent pool. And when we say second chance, you may also hear fair chance hiring, prior justice involvement, individuals with prior convictions. There are a lot of different terms that are used when discussing this work. And so I think it's important to know we're talking about all of those things. And the terms are just different definitions of kind of the same topic. So why should you care about second chance hiring? What does it mean for you as a business? One is it widens your talent pool. I'm sure you've heard multiple times today that right now we have 900,000 open jobs in manufacturing, and we just simply can't afford to leave these folks on the sideline. With 1 in 4 individuals who have a prior conviction, as well as individuals in this population typically have 5 times the average unemployment rate compared to individuals without a prior conviction. There's a lot of folks who are looking for jobs right now that are simply not able to find them because of their prior conviction. Another reason is it decreases your turnover. We've seen through companies who have been engaged in this work that individuals who have prior convictions or justice involvement tend to stay longer and be just as productive, if not more productive, than the average individual who comes in for employment. They also have more loyalty. It's hard to find a job in this population. And so being able to find an employer who is loyal to you, you want to be loyal back to them. And so it does decrease your turnover, which then also decreases cost. It also helps you stay competitive. You can see from that quote from Jeff Korzanik, who's written the book on second chance hiring, the successful CEO of the future will be the one who can manage through the coming talent shortage. This is going to be so essential, and we can't afford to leave anyone on the sidelines. So it'll be really essential for the future of businesses and your companies to be considering all talent that has the skills and the capability to fill the roles. And then finally, I think this is the least important reason, but something that is important to be aware of is you can also access incentives. The Work Opportunity Tax Credit, as well as the federal bonding program, are both out there for companies who are engaged in this work and are possible for you to take advantage of if you're engaged in second chance hiring. So what's the perception of this? It's really, I'm sure you've heard a lot more about second chance hiring in the past year. It's really become a big topic. And it's important to kind of know, what do people really think about second chance hiring? SHRM has collected a lot of great data through their Getting Talent Back to Work initiative. And they found that 80% of Americans support expanding second chance hiring practices. If you look at the statistic of 1 in 4 individuals who have a prior conviction, that means about 50% of the population in America is impacted by this one way or another, whether that means a family member or a friend. A lot of people are impacted by the justice system, and most Americans support second chance hiring practices. As well as 85% of HR professionals believe that workers with criminal records perform their jobs as well or better than individuals who don't. We actually have data that supports that. I'll be talking about one of our initiatives in San Antonio in a little bit, but from all the data they've collected from all of the individuals they've hired, they've shown that they actually are more productive than the individuals who come in without prior convictions. And then both of these, I think everyone watching and here today knows this, but 64% of millennials will not take a job without a connection to corporate social responsibility. And 91% of millennials said that they would switch to a brand with a cause. Second chance hiring, we approach it from a workforce development perspective because we really think that's the main reason that you should be engaged in this. But it's also the right thing to do for your community. It's the right thing to do for your other employees. There's a lot of great reasons to be engaged engaged in this work, and having the awareness that this is something that your other employees value is important. So we really have approached this from a two-pronged approach. We've learned from companies and community-based organizations that have been engaged in this for quite some time that there needs to be a focus on both hiring and retaining. It's not just about getting people in the door, but it's about how do you keep them. And then also, there's kind of two approaches that make companies the most successful. One is by looking internally. So what are the HR changes, the company changes that you need to take on in order to make this successful to both hire and retain? And then also, what are the external relationships that are necessary? I'm going to talk a little bit about community-based organizations and the role that they play in this work, but they're extremely essential in order to be successful. So it's important to know that there's those internal HR things, but also thinking about this externally as well. So I'm going to jump into some of those best practices now. So let's start with, this is kind of the whole process to get someone hired, right? You have the job postings and applications, you have the interviews, you have the background checks, and then you have the individual reviews. So there's best practices, many best practices in each of those areas, but I'm going to hit on a couple for each of them. So let's start with the job posting and applications. That's the first time someone's getting to know you as a company. They're seeing that job posting, they're looking at your company website, and they're trying to figure out who you are and what you're about. That's the most important place to be really honest that you're a second chance employer. You don't want to hide that. That's not something you don't want people to know about. You should be proud about it, and you should be telling your applicants that that's out there. Another big thing that you've heard about, I'm sure, is removing those upfront disclosures. That is something that has been found to be a best practice because then you're getting people more comfortable to apply. But for me, one of the things that I've learned a lot about is just really talking about being a second chance employer and telling folks about it, because you don't know how many individuals you're losing by not saying it out loud. There might be folks who are coming to apply and don't see that there and get scared that they're not even going to make it through the process because of their prior conviction. So being really open and honest about that is one of the best practices there. Then interviewing. So let's hope those individuals get to the interview stage. What does that mean? You want to make sure that you're setting really clear expectations on who you are as a company and what you are open to. You also want to have strength-based questions and a clear focus on accomplishments. One of the best practices that individuals are being told now is to be open about their prior convictions during the interview process. They're being told that it's important to have those conversations up front rather than waiting until a background check comes back. So from an HR perspective, that may be something new that a hiring manager, if it's second chance hiring is new for your company, has never taken on before. So having an understanding that a lot of individuals, while they're incarcerated, are actually gaining skills. They're either gaining education skills, job skills, they may be going through a training program while they're incarcerated, and having conversations and feeling comfortable to ask questions about that is something that's important for the hiring manager to feel comfortable about. There's a lot of language there, and it's not always comfortable. And so we do have some guides that can help begin those conversations, as well as lots of experts who can really help HR managers understand what that looks like. But I think the most important thing to know is that having those conversations is something that we should all start to get more comfortable with. So then background checks. I think that's the piece that comes up a lot when you're thinking about second chance hiring, and it should, because often that's the place where everything stops. So there are some best practices with background checks. There's a lot of best practices with background checks, but I'm going to highlight just a couple. So first, the look back period. There's an opportunity to change working with your background provider to no longer look forever back, to look at someone's full history. You can look back 3 to 7 years. 7 years seems to be the sweet spot for a lot of employers to begin to think through, how far back do I really need to know about their last conviction for it really to be applicable for this job? Is something that happened 25 years ago going to really impact their ability to be successful on the job now? So that's a conversation you can have with your background check provider in order to begin to think through how you can bring more folks in rather than thinking about that full time of their lifespan. Also, you can talk to your background check provider about only showing you specific convictions. You don't need necessarily to know every single conviction someone's had. You can see only the ones that are applicable to the job that they're being hired for. So one of the best practices we've seen is companies going through every single job posting they have and thinking through what are really the convictions that I can't have for that role, and making sure your background check providers know that. And anything else doesn't really matter. And it doesn't really need to be something that you're finding out from your background check provider. So that's another thing that you can do, which then leads me to the individual reviews. So hopefully you get that background check back. And instead of having a red light, which is automatically, I'm not going to hire someone because they have this conviction, start to think about having yellow lights, where that then allows you to have conversations and get feedback from individuals about their convictions. Everyone's a full person who has full experiences, and one thing on a piece of paper really never tells the full story. So having conversations with individuals, providing them an opportunity to give feedback on their conviction, the circumstances, and any rehabilitation efforts that they've seen is something that has really provided a lot of companies an opportunity to better get to know their candidates and see if they're really going to be the right fit for the role. We've actually seen this in our pilot in San Antonio, which I'll talk more about in a little bit, but they actually have, after the background check, they provide individuals with an opportunity to give feedback written, and they even ask a lot of questions to be able to bring that out so an individual feels open. And they also tell them, we're not asking you this to get you in more trouble or to scare you. This is us getting to know you as a person, a full person. So really explaining that, because sometimes companies just send those out and say, we saw you have prior conviction, tell us what it is. And it's just terrifying, and you don't know what that means, and you're afraid that means you're going to lose the job after you have a conditional offer. So also explaining that an individual review is actually a great opportunity, not something that should be scary, is another best practice. So those are just a few of the HR best practices. We have quite a few. We have guides on our website that really talk through that, and there's a lot there that can be done. So then building community partnerships. This is personally one of my favorite parts about this work. There are community partners all across the country who are engaged in second chance hiring and working with individuals who have prior justice involvement. They are doing amazing work and want to talk to you as an employer. They will be so happy if you call them, because they have great candidates who are looking for jobs, and that's really the role that they play. So as an employer, you have an opportunity to both identify who the right partners are, as well as then engage with them. It's not just send me all of your candidates, give me referrals. It's also that level of engagement and partnership between you and the employer. So what does that look like? Well, we've put together a community partnership scorecard that has multiple different sections that really talk through the different things that are essential to have a good community partner. One is work readiness support. We often hear from employers that employability skills or soft skills are one of the number one thing from all candidates that seem to be missing at times. So most community-based organizations who are engaged in this space do some type of work readiness support, whether it's while someone is still incarcerated or after they've been released. They talk through, what does it look like to have relationships with the manager? How do you deal with conflict? This is something that I would have conversations with a community partner about before engaging with them to understand what role they play there. Also reentry support. So a lot of individuals who are dealing with a prior conviction are also dealing with other challenges too, whether it's housing insecurities, food insecurities, lots of different challenges that could be there. And having a community-based organization who can play the role of supporting individuals with those reentry supports is a really good thing for you as an employer to have. As well as there's lots of different staffing options when it comes to community-based organizations. Some do more of a temporary staffing where they can come in and just learn about the roles you have available. Others do direct to hire where they bring someone on full time with you. So really understanding what is their staffing model is a good place to ask questions. As well as referrals, how many people in scale, how many people do they have interacting with their program? What is the scale they've worked with other employers? These are questions that I would begin to have conversations about. And then also the ongoing support. One of the best practices we've seen is the role of community-based organizations to play ongoing support once someone is hired. A lot of times they're called a success coach or something along those lines, where they actually come in once a week and meet with individuals who are now on the job and talk to them about those barriers. They don't just go away because you got a job all of a sudden. If you had housing insecurities before, it might take a little while for you to get to a place where that's no longer there. Or if you're having transportation challenges because originally your mom said she was going to drive you to work every day and then no longer is able to. Well, what do you do about that? For a lot of individuals, that means they don't show up to work the next day. Well, if they have that ongoing support and that relationship with a community-based organization, they now have someone they can reach out to and say, I'm dealing with this challenge. What solutions do you think there are? As well as training opportunities. This one's especially unique for manufacturers. A lot of times there is that need for some sort of prior training before employment. And so a lot of community-based organizations offer that. And having conversations about the credentials and the certifications that they offer will set you up to understand what roles these folks can fill. I think sometimes in this work, there's a perception that we're only talking about production roles. That's not at all what we're saying. Individuals come with a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different experiences. And so having an understanding of what roles they're able to fill and what roles they're able to fill because of training that they've been offered is really important. And then finally, their experience is always an important conversation topic, as well as their evaluation skills. This is one that's really important to me. Having an understanding of how are they evaluating success? Is it just job placement or is it retention? Trying to understand how they're collecting that data is really important and overall leads to long-term success between you and them as a community partner. So we have this scorecard on our website. It's a great tool, a great conversation starter as you're reaching out to community-based organizations, and something I would strongly encourage if you get engaged in second chance hiring. So what are the resources we have? We have office hours. So we open up once a month for 2 hours virtually where any manufacturer can join. We bring on experts who can answer any questions you have. Sometimes questions are a little awkward to ask if you don't know a lot about this space in front of large groups. So we actually have private sessions we offer 4 or 5 private sessions, and then we have an open session where anyone can join and be a part of the conversation. We have webinars. So if you go on our website, we have multiple webinars that are a great place to hear from employers who've been successful in this space and kind of learn more about these best practices. We've done some research. We have case studies. So overall, you all should leave this conversation feeling like, okay, I know where to go if I want to get started. And one of the things that we've done since we launched in April is actually launched 2 pilots. So we have one with Union Pacific, and it's launching in Houston as their first site. And then we also have one in San Antonio. The one in San Antonio has been amazing. It actually started with one employer who's been doing second chance hiring since 2018 and approached us and said, I think other employers could do this too. How do we bring them on? So we've been engaged with them, and now it's spread to 4 or 5 other employers, as well as working with community-based organizations there. We actually have a short video that I wanted to show all of you about this work. So if we can play the video, please.
Some people don't get a second chance. I came from, bad neighborhood, and, I got in trouble at an early age. You can't just judge a person from their past.
I ran into issue with the law, lost my job, and nobody was hiring because of the background issue I had.
The biggest challenge that I would say the manufacturers are facing today is really just finding the workforce that we need. When we started this initiative, we were the only company that was actively targeting the justice-involved population, and we weren't really sure what the outcome was going to be. What we have found is the justice-involved population historically has outperformed individuals that come into us through normal recruiting methods. We have to start thinking creatively and thinking outside of the box. We had to bring those community resources to the table that had the expertise.
So in 2018, the Reentry Center was approached by a manufacturing company to see if she could recruit employees.
There are a lot of partners that are working together. Our office is just one component of what we're trying to achieve here with the Second Chance program. We have to have private industry willing to embrace those individuals that just because they've made a mistake, then that employer ought to give that person an opportunity to prove themselves.
The way that we rolled out our Second Chance program, first and foremost, we worked with our attorney. We needed to figure out what policies could we change, and then how do we structure that program. We looked for the experts in our community that worked with those issues of removing barriers and brought them to the table.
We heard that another company on campus was doing the Second Chance program. They had a really good success rate. In order to move forward with, I did have to get approval from the president of UTEX and the plant manager. We thought it would be a good opportunity for us also.
They're offering a career, not just a $7 an hour job.
And my family so proud of me. This would make me feel good about waking up coming there because my mama got a smile this big. I know if they seeing that I did it and I'm still here, it could happen for them too.
I'm glad there's various company that is taking this initiative to hire and giving a person a second chance. This is a rewarding program for the employer and employees.
The Second Chance program could be a solution for us getting people in the door.
We have an opportunity to engage this population.
If we're able to bring in more individuals through the Second Chance hiring, it means more opportunities for our company. It gives us that confidence that we can go after new business. We can continue to grow and offer those opportunities to other individuals.
I'm very excited about that. We actually, we just are releasing this as of this week. So very excited about this. It's been amazing to get to see the impact that this work has had on their community and individuals there. As you saw, Don and John, they love their jobs. They're so excited. John actually just got to buy a house for his kids for the first time. And Don, this was his first job ever. He never had employment prior to this. And so getting to hear him talk about the impact of his first job and how he had to learn how to file taxes and just the impact of this was so exciting. But then to also hear it from the employer's standpoint, the employers have been so impacted by this work. They really do believe that this is how they're going to build their talent pipeline over time. So very excited, as you can tell from the smile on my face, about this work. And some of the best practices we've seen just from this pilot alone is having multiple employers come together, basically on any workforce development initiative, tends to have a bigger impact. You get more buy-in from community partners, you get more buy-in from individuals because they also know that then it's not just one opportunity they have, it's a whole community of opportunities. So working with multiple employers is always best practice that we like to see, as well as community partners, as I've already talked about. But as you saw in this video, the district attorney is bought in and is talking about this publicly and really believes that this is an alternative pathway for individuals instead of just incarceration, as well as the Reentry Center, who's really interacting with these individuals as they're trying to figure out what's next after they've gone through some justice involvement. And then the success coach model I talked about a little bit, but I didn't tell you who's doing that. It's actually the local workforce board. So they're playing a role in doing the boot camp that we have actually the week before someone comes on full time. They run a boot camp and teach them safety skills and those employability skills and how they can find the local supports in their community. And so the success coach is really essential. And that local workforce board, I think that's a unique opportunity that they haven't played in a lot of other places in the country. And then continuous improvement. They don't think that this is done. We don't just have the model and it's perfect and we're not going to do anything to change. They're constantly looking for new partners, new opportunities, ways to continue to support this population internally and externally. So very excited about this and excited to see kind of where it goes. I shouldn't even call it a pilot anymore because they've been very clear this isn't going anywhere. So very excited about this work.